Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Teaches English Language. In this video, I'm going to be giving you my top tips for tackling the Edexcel English Language Paper 1 exam. We're going to focus in on section B, which is just the imaginative writing part. I'm going to be talking you through what a paper looks like and giving you some do's and don'ts. If you want more detail on any of the things that I discussed with you or some guidance on paper 1A, then check out my playlist where you will find lots and lots of videos to help you with your revision. Let's get started. Okay, so here are the two questions that went with the 2018 paper, November 2018 paper that I did my section A walkthrough with. First question goes with some images. I'm going to show them to you in a moment. So actually, let's look at the sixth question first. So write about what it would be like to live in the future. Your response could be real or imagined. So that's a really creative one. It gives you a lot of scope and a lot of freedom because that's just about offering your descriptive ideas. Now, some people will write that as a story and some people will write a description, and you can get marks either way for that. Now, question 5 is perhaps slightly easier. Look at the images provided. Write about a time when you or someone you know made something. Your response could be real or imagined. You may wish to base your response on one of the images. So that means you don't have to use the images, but if you're struggling for ideas, they can give you a little bit of motivation. Now, this was the most popular question based on the people that did it. And I think it's because this prompt here gives you some quite defined structure, whereas this one, it really involves like using your most imaginative brain because you're not drawing upon something that you specifically know. But some people might find that one would be a little bit more fun. Who knows? Right, let me just show you the pictures that come with the fifth one, just so you can get an idea. They're never particularly inspiring. Here we've got a little girl on a go-kart that looks like she has made. And then the second one is an image of school children who have basically made, put some equations right on the board and have worked together to do it. So funnily enough, it was this one that was the most popular prompt for question 5, again, because there's something very tangible about it. And in fact, the examiner report specifically said that some of the really strong responses came from children writing about times when they made a go-kart. But within that, there was a stipulation that the ones that did really well focused on the sort of emotional experience and journey of it and the emotional response, thoughts and feelings, as opposed to, and then I did this, and then I did that, and then I did this, and then I did the other. And they're not looking for a sequence of events. But it does point me into something that I think is really important to say. Both of these pictures are pictures that young people can relate to. And one of the things that we've learned over the years of these imaginative writings, as much as we might want to write spectacular galactic wars featuring Vikings of the future battling space demons of the past, you've got 45 minutes. Yeah, so you've got to be able to come up with a plausible storyline, something that you can write well with a good narrative structure in that time. It is best to write what you know rather than go into a future world of craziness. Now, I know, sorry, I'm being confusing because I'm saying future world, which was what the task was. But if, for example, you were doing that question, the danger for that would be to try and do something too ambitious. Because like I said, your timing is limited. So take the prompt from like the images. It does help you, and write what you know. That does come with a slight warning with it as well, which I'm going to cover here. So here are my imaginative writing do's and don'ts. So do make a short plan. It is so important that you know where you're going before you start writing. Again, that's something that has come up from the examiner's reports. It is very clear when students haven't planned and they've started writing and then have gone, ooh, and taken it into a totally crazy direction that no one was expecting and not in an effective plot twist way. So short plan, little 3 to 4 part narrative. Check out my videos on effective planning to help you out with that. Now, back to this idea about writing what you know. It's a really good idea when you've got 45 minutes to stick to something that you've experienced or someone you know has experienced. That does not mean that you can't lie. That does not mean that you can't embellish. Of course, you want to add to it. Focusing again on that emotional response rather than providing a factual account of an event. I call this the bacon sandwich effect, where, you know, the writing task has been something like, you know, write about going on a journey, and the student has actually had the experience of waking up in the morning, his mum giving him a bacon sandwich, and then surprising him with a trip to somewhere else. And I've had to sit through a page and a half of descriptions of the smell of bacon cooking in the kitchen. You've got to think, what information that is real has to go in there. You don't need to provide every little thing that happened. Yeah, it's got to be engaging for the reader. And with that in mind, do create a powerful opening with a strong narrative hook. Again, I've got another video on effective openings for you to have a look at, so go and check that out because it does help. Obviously, we want you to create a range of features for effect, both language and structure. So you should be using the same techniques that the writer was using in section A. Okay, so the writer uses juxtapositions and metaphors and similes, so should you. Okay. Very important, do check your work thoroughly, regularly, focusing on SPAG, so spelling, punctuation and grammar, and your overall expression. Remember that in this exam, it's split out, isn't it? So 60% is for content and organisation, 40% is for spelling, punctuation, grammar and word choice, interestingly enough. So it is really important, you know, that's 40% of your marks can be impacted upon by your spelling and your punctuation. And when I say thoroughly and regularly, I would recommend that every time you write a paragraph, or let's say a third of a page, you pause and read it through. Because if you do it as you go, your brain won't be so tired and you'll be more likely to pick up on the mistakes and then less likely to make them as you keep going. Whereas if you save all of your reviewing until the last 5 minutes of the exam when your brain is pooped, chances are you're not going to pick up on those mistakes, and you might not even have time to put them right. So regularly and, you know, thoroughly and often. Don't create an overly ambitious narrative or setting that needs a massive backstory. You know, if your examiner doesn't understand who your characters are or where you are or why you're there, then they're not going to engage with it. They're not going to enjoy it. And if the answer is to give this summative backstory, again, that's not an interesting or engaging way to do it. So it goes back to my keep it simple with your planning, write what you know, but with embellishments. Don't overwrite. What I mean by that is your writing should be really coherent. Sometimes people want to sound fancy. And so it means that they end up writing in quite a sort of strangely ambiguous way. And what I always say to my students, as brutal as it might sound, is this. Would a human being say those words or think those things or use those words in that order? A normal human being, someone your age? If the answer is no, then it shouldn't be in your creative writing story. That's not to say that I don't want you to use metaphors and such, but I mean the general style of the writing. You know, if it doesn't sound like plausible thinking and speaking, then it shouldn't be in your story. And then my final don't is don't ignore the question or the task. Make sure that you don't do that thing where you've kind of planned a story in advance and then you're going to shoehorn it in no matter what the task is. The examiners will see through that. Okay, so write according to what the prompt is. You know, don't get yourself into a pickle where you've written a story that is completely irrelevant and then you try and tie it together in the last, you know, sentence of your story. An examiner is not going to be fooled by that at all, because they will have read all of your story going, how does this link to making something? You know, so it's really important that you do make it appropriate to the question task. That doesn't mean you can't twist things. That doesn't mean you can't have fun. That doesn't mean that you can't be clever with it, but your examiner needs to understand the link. That's it from me. Thank you for watching. I do have a range of videos on your imaginative writing, focusing on using language features, structural features, engaging openings and planning effectively. So do have a little look at those, especially if you are preparing for your exam in the next couple of days for the 2023 series. Best of luck if you are. Otherwise, give me a shout if you've got any questions. Happy revising.